Jonathan E. Sultano here, internet's second busiest music nerd. Shout out to Anthony. Notice me, senpai. Today, we're going to be reviewing the big one. We're going to be reviewing an album that I would say changed my life. Probably for the better. Likely for the better. The name of that album is Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan. A seminal recording, I would say. It was largely a throwback, I guess you could say, to his earlier acoustic origins, I guess. Origins, is that a word we can use? But yeah, following his appearance at the Newport Folk Festival in 1965, when he went electric for the first time, and then released Highway 61 Revisited, another classic album, and going through this whole electric period, Bob Dylan went through a very tumultuous period in his life, and I guess this is what became of that through his creative output. He released Blood on the Tracks, released in 1975. Cannot be more overstated or understated, I guess, how crucial this is to his larger body of work. The album opens up with Tangled Up in Blue. Fantastic opener for the album. It really lays out the main themes, and it's a great example of what folk rock as a genre would become in the 1970s and I guess later on in the coming years. The production's really tight. It doesn't have any one element particularly overpowering the rest. Everything just seems to be in its own pocket, and it just gels together well. And I think that is a really crucial part of a good track for any album, let alone this album. Following that, we've got Simple Twist of Fate, very bittersweet reflection on a failing relationship, this track. It could be interpreted that this is written by Bob about his relationship with his wife, who he had become not quite estranged with, but certainly had a strained relationship with at this point in time. And then following that, we've got You're a Big Girl Now. It's not one of my favorite tunes, per se, personally, but it goes deeper into those same themes of failing relationships, and unique to this track, I guess, it becomes more specific and personal, going from a third-person omniscient narrative perspective to a first-person exchange between the narrator and the big girl, whoever that is that he is referring to, particularly shown in lines like, "I'm just like that bird singing just for you." He's really reaching out and trying to grab this person that he's talking to and say, you know, this is what our relationship has become. And then following that, we've got Idiot Wins, an outright attack against the narrator's former lover. At this point, the conflict between the narrator and the love interest has gone from an inner reflection and walking on eggshells to a full-blown declaration outright of the relationship not working, with lines like, "You're an idiot, babe, it's a wonder you still know how to breathe," and "I haven't known peace and quiet for so long, I can't remember what it's like." And for lack of a better word, the song is just filled with all kinds of zingers, I guess, about how things aren't working and the narrator just doesn't care anymore. It's gone from, "We need to fix this," to "I never want to see you again." Particularly, you can see this in lines like, "I can't even touch the books you've read," or "Every time I pass your door, I wish I was somebody else instead." But I think one of the most poignant lines, one of the most standout ones for me, I guess, is one towards the end of the song where he says, "You'll never know what hurt I've suffered, nor the pain I rise above, and I'll never know the same about you, your holiness, and your kind of love." I think that's a really good commentary, I guess, of all the emotions that you feel when you are breaking up with some type of romantic partner in your life. I think there's a whole spectrum of things that you feel, and in this song, Bob's writing has just gone through the whole gamut of all of those things that you feel, and I think that's important. I think that's important to document, especially with such a personal theme, and also overall this being such a personal work. The interplay between the guitar and harmonica and vocal is absolutely perfect for this track. The addition of the organ cements the gravity of the lyrics in the listener's mind, I found. After this, we've got "You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome When You Go," which, after the previous track, essentially casting out the narrator's love interest, this track is almost a reflection of the good memories, rather than the bad ones, and focusing on all of the inner and outer turmoil in the moment. You can see this in lines like, "I could stay with you forever and never realize the time," or "You're gonna make me wonder what I'm saying, and you're gonna make me give myself a good talking to." I think maybe in this instance, perhaps Dylan's narrator is maybe reconsidering maybe what they've done, if there's an overarching story to this album. I think this could be interpreted as Dylan's narrator thinking like, "Oh, did I make the right decision? Was this a good idea? I'm not sure, I'm having second thoughts." I don't know, it's an interesting interpretation. May not be the official one, I don't know. I don't claim to be like a Bob Dylan historian or anything, but I think there are some interesting parallels between tracks overall. After that, we have "Meet Me in the Morning," which shifts gears from the guitar, organ, and harmonica instrumentation of the previous tracks, and favoring more of a blues-based approach, utilizing electric guitar, slide guitar, and drums. This track could be interpreted as almost a post-breakup depression set to a 12-bar blues. Dylan's narrator makes many references to how much he has struggled, and how much he has gone through to be with his lover, and how bad it hurts now that everything has sort of become all for nothing. You can see this in lines like, "I feel just like that rooster, honey, you treat me so unkind. I struggle through barbed wire, felt the hail from above. And, well, you know I outran the hound dogs, honey, you know I've earned your love." And then also, you can see in lines like, "They say the darkest hour is right before the dawn, but you wouldn't know it by me, every day has been darkness since you've been gone." He's really driving home the point that, after they've gone their separate ways, like things are still very dark, things are still very bad, and he's essentially just suffering, I guess you could say. And then following that, we have a bit, I guess, of a juxtaposition, maybe some not quite comic relief, but a song that kind of relieves some of the tension, I guess you could say, of the previous tracks. So up next, we've got "Lily Rosemary" and "The Jack of Hearts." It's kind of a shift in tone from the rest of the record. It relieves the tension of the previous couple of tracks, and reframes similar themes to what have already been explored in the record, but reframes it through a lighter, somewhat humorous allegory, I guess. It is a story about affairs, robbery, and reinforces the facades that develop within relationships, which Dylan has explored earlier on the record. It still utilizes the same themes as before, like I said, but frames them in a different way. After that, we've got If You See Her, Say Hello. It's a competently written song, as always, but it feels like Dylan has really already kind of explored these ideas before, and perhaps already explored them better, if that makes sense. It just kind of feels like tacked on, and dare I say it, almost is there to pad out the length of the record, maybe, I don't know. It's not a bad song by any stretch, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. I feel like this theme and idea was explored better on other songs. Following that, the big one, the one that is my personal favorite song off of this record, Shelter from the Storm. When I first heard it, I had no idea who the artist performing this song was. I think I heard it in it was some TV show, it was like the background of some TV show, and I was immediately struck by the imagery of the lyrics, and like the writing just spoke to me in a way that Dylan's music hadn't really spoken to me before. Up until that point, I didn't really take him that seriously. I thought he was kind of like a figurehead and sort of like a cultural relic of the whole 1960s protest counterculture. My first impression of him was actually, I don't know, he was just kind of this silly singer, songwriter, or whatever. Answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. But yeah, after listening to this song in particular, it really made me start to fall in love with his work. I ended up, shortly after hearing the song, I actually went immediately to my iTunes, when I still used iTunes, and I bought the song, and after listening to it like on repeat for several hours, I ended up buying like the whole record later that day. And ultimately, I would say this record holds a special place in my heart, because I feel like if I had never heard this, if I had never heard Shelter from the Storm in particular, I don't think I would have become as interested in my own musical pursuits and creative output. I definitely feel like this record was one that inspired me to try and write songs and music of that magnitude, of that gravity, that could connect with somebody in the same way, in a similar fashion, that these songs and this album as a whole had connected with and spoken to me. My final sort of impression, score, whatever you want to call it, I would give this album a 9 out of 10. I feel like If You See Her, Say Hello and Buckets of Rain are kind of tacked on and pad out the length of the record somewhat, retreading similar material from earlier in the album. But those minor things aside, this is one of my favorite albums of all time. This has been Jonthony Sultano, music review critic, internet's busiest music nerd, except for Anthony. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe. Follow my second channel, I'll put it here in the description, or right here, wherever it ends up, I don't know. But I will see you next time. Thanks for watching my video. Goodbye.